thank you everybody for putting together most of these questions. So the format we're going to do is to pose a question, have one candidate go first, then the next candidate pause for any questions, check the chat for any questions, and go on to the second question, okay? And after the pre-scripted questions are finished, then we can open it up if there's any additional questions, okay? Okay. So either one of you can start with this question. What are the main initiatives you are planning on implementing while in office, and what are the biggest issues facing your constituents as you see it? As you see them?
Would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'm Beth, for those that don't know who I am. So one of my biggest is the no accountability. Every department head always seems to be pointing fingers at another person, and it's not my responsibility. It's not my department's. But then if you ask them, thanks. But then if you ask them a month later, they'll change the story, and then they'll tell you, oh, well, no, it's this person. Well, we don't have this in. So that's one of my biggest gripes, is the lack of accountability and responsibility of the department heads.
And what are the biggest needs as you see them for your constituents for Ward 6?
The needs are accountability,
Okay.
because without accountability, we don't have anything. They can just keep drawing us in, you know, and never be honest and never give us a proper answer.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay, my name is Patrick Maloney. This is my 8th time running for office. I served on the school committee for 4 years, from 2008 to 2012. And then I ran for city council, lost by about 100 votes. City council, lost by about 50 or 100 votes. Ran again for city council, lost by 200 votes. Ran again, ran for state rep 4 years ago, and I ran for city council again. And I'm always very, very close. And to me, being involved is very, very important. Even though I lost all of those races, people in my community, and I live in Ward 1. I live, you know where the Bennies used to be on Warwick Ave? Everyone says yes, of course they do. Yes. So it's a job lot now. I live right across the street. So just over one street over from Narragansett Parkway. So I live in that area. I have a small business in the Narragansett, in the Newport Creamery Plaza. People continuously come to me, even though I don't get elected, and I help them get stuff done. From something as simple as my road didn't get plowed and my city council person doesn't call me back, to I've been waiting 3 years for this crosswalk to get painted on this road in front of the school, and a kid's going to get hit. And I'm not elected, and I get it done. So for the past 12 years, I've been doing the job, and the people who are in there are not doing the job. And those are just some simple examples. But for the city of Warwick, what I'd like to do, I am a small business owner. I've been a small business owner for 13 years, over 13 years really, but in Warwick. We need small businesses. Our families need to shop in our town. We have kids that can't afford rent, never mind thinking that our children will ever be able to afford a house here. I want to keep families in Rhode Island. I want to keep them in Warwick. I want to have a reason for people to come here. You know, it shouldn't just be July 4th. Hey, everybody go to Oakland Beach next year. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's just wrong. So small businesses, before COVID, I ran for, when I ran, I drove down, this is a long answer and I apologize. I drove down Warwick Ave, West Shore Road, Post Road, back to Warwick Ave, and there were over 200 small businesses closed, and that was pre-COVID. During COVID, we lost 30% of our small businesses, and we are told they'll never come back. So we need to change that. We shouldn't have to tell our kids to move out of Warwick. We shouldn't have to tell our kids or our elderly parents to move out of the state. We shouldn't have to tell our kids there's no jobs here. So we have to create an environment where we're not, and we're the third biggest city. We used to be the second biggest city, where we're not 50th in the country for business. And it starts at the local level. If we can create small businesses here in Warwick, then we can create small businesses in Cranston and other places, and then we won't be last for business. But it does come down to accountability, and not just accountability of our city to get things done. It's accountability of all our elected officials. I will not stand by while an elected official gets arrested and assaults a police officer and gets away with it. I will not stand for a congressman of the United States sister to get pulled over for drunk driving on National Warwick Live PD and get let go. That is ridiculous. From the top to the bottom, there'll be accountability. And that's really important. Yes?
What is your long-term plan to bring businesses back to Warwick, small businesses? Because the rent is unrealistic for anyone to start a small business.
It is.
So what's your plan to get that going?
In Providence, they have collectives where multiple businesses can share a space, and owners of different companies have the ability to pull their resources and rent a space, and they all get a portion of it. We have plenty of empty buildings that can be rented as long as we can go in and give an incentive to be here. And I don't mean a tax incentive, an incentive for our owners of these buildings to be willing to modify them to allow small businesses to be in there. I think education is really important too. We tell all of our kids, you need to go to college. You need to do this. You need to do that. There's a lot of kids out there that would open.
Sorry about
I'm
that.
sorry.
I was trying to manage.
There's a lot of
the
kids
chat.
out there that would love to open a small business. There was a kid in high school I was a mentor for. And he, you know how they have to do the senior project? His senior project was on starting a business where he bought sneakers. The kid loved sneakers. He was 17 years old. He's now a manager of Stop and Shop. But when he was 17 years old, not only did he do this for his senior project, but I encouraged him to actually do it because it was a great idea. And he made a ton of money buying sneakers that were sought after sneakers and reselling them. And this is what he did for his job to pay for college. And it was just such a simple idea. So what we need to do is,
Local business?
what's that?
He did that in a local
He
business,
did that out
or
of his,
home?
he did it out of his home. Right. But this is Rhode Island. You could do eBay. You can do a lot of things as a small business. If we have, do you know where the Met is in Providence?
Yes.
Okay, right next door, there's an empty building. It's got about 25 businesses in it right now, and they all work out of the same building.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I previously lived in Woonsocket and they did it in the old mill building.
Yeah.
But I want to know how we get them here. The kid you're talking about did it from, not from a small business. How
Well-
are we gonna
So
get
can I?
the
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I get in? So there's a program called Main Street America. So these programs have already been established. They want to help small cities like Oakland Beach, how to re-beautify your main street, how to bring businesses in. So I say, let's go after, let's use somebody like that who even offers grants and that can help us. And instead of redoing things that about, instead of reinventing the wheel,
It's all
let's keep it
creative.
going. And they have over 1,600 small towns that have been successful with the program. So that's what I would like to see happen.
So can you expand on that a little bit? Like what you said, kind of like beautifying, like the.
So they beautified the main street to bring people into the town. So if we can, beautify Oakland Beach Ave to lure the people in, exactly, and beautify the roundabout, and just, we can do it, it takes work. It takes applications, it takes time, but if it's already been done, and I don't know, 1,600 small towns sounds pretty good to me. You know, if they can be successful, why can't we? If we're willing to do the work, you know, but it goes back also to accountability. You have to have honesty, because when you start applying for grants and funds, you've got to have that proper accounting. You have to have the history. Why is it that you want this? Why can't you do it yourself? Well, instead of reinventing,
I'd like to answer your question. Just a second though. How many people in here have ever thought about seriously opening a business? What was the reason why you didn't do it?
Availability and zoning.
Yeah, zoning and rent.
You also have to pay your employees to have, they have to have insurance.
the insurance is off the charts right now. Yeah.
City fees and taxes. Taxes, licensing fees, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the government getting in your way of making it happen for you? Or is the government helping you to do it?
There's no help.
So I would be willing to bet there's already a department in the city that's supposed to be helping people to get set up. And I'm probably going to tell you that we don't even know what phone number to use to reach them.
Oh, so I actually have phone numbers, because when I went and had my conversation with the mayor and I said, you know, it's really frustrating to me that when I go online and I'm looking for a department, I can't find the department head or anything. I'll make it available to anybody if they want to email me. So I went in and created my own. So I have every department, who the department head is, the phone number, the email. So I have created this with the city departments and the boards.
So, thank you.
I have a question about that. Why do you feel that it was hidden from the public?
I don't know, if you ask the mayor, he said it's there. And so when I showed him, I had my iPad with me and I said, okay, show me where it's at. And he goes, I don't remember. It's been too long since I've done it. So,
And you had a question. I interrupted. I'm sorry.
I was just a little confused with, there was a question on how do we, I understood the question is, how do we make the rents more affordable? And how do we make things more friendly to the business? But I don't understand in your answers how we're doing it.
how we get there.
Especially like with the Main Street, I understand beautifying, but I don't see how that reduces rents.
So let me pause for 1 second. There is a separate question specifically around business and how to make it more, the city to be more friendly to businesses. So if
And
we
they're
can,
genuine all over.
yes. But so there was an attack on to that about rent affordability.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make
So-
a note of it.
If it's
Get back
okay
to
for us to move on to the next question. Flooding risk in Oakland Beach, what plans, and for you beyond, as a mayor beyond Oakland Beach, but what plans will you implement, initiate, and maintain, which is the important word, maintain, to secure the protection and preservation of Oakland Beach and the city's coastline? Will you support the ability of local residents who own beachfront property to take measures to protect their land from further erosion? So who would like to, oh, actually, do you want to
Why
go
don't I
first?
take it first?
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll alternate, yeah.
So first of all, I'm going to support Oakland Beach. Oakland Beach is an excellent resource for us. And the property that you own, if it's in danger, there should be people willing to come out here and evaluate it and work with you to fix it. If there's a department like the sewer department that makes a neighborhood that has 10 sewers that are bad, and then they make 900 people get sewers, things are backwards. So if they're willing to dig up an entire neighborhood to put in sewers for 900 people when only like 10 or 20 need it, and that's a fact. Only about 9 people were in danger of having it fail. And there were 20 people that needed it, but they put it in for 900. Then they have the ability to use resources they already have to dig and to put things in place to prevent erosion. I actually sent Beth a link this week to these barriers that they actually have for areas that get flooded. and it allows you to redirect the flooding. Because erosion's happening because the water's coming in and pulling things out. So if we don't have the proper drainage and we don't have the proper the flow of water going where we want it to go, it's just going to keep eroding.
So who has the barriers?
I sent it to you. They're very cost effective. They're actually made of plastic. You can pick them up with your hands and move them around. So instead of using sandbags, they use these instead, and they rerouted an entire river with it. That's how strong they are. They're very, very light, and they're very, very strong. And I only found it this week because I was doing research. You did see it. It was amazing. It was amazing. So, I mean, obviously there's a cost involved, but if we can spend $10.6 million on a sign for TF Green Airport, then we can probably find money to prevent flooding in your backyard and erosion. So that's my short answer.
Unfortunately, with the Oakland Beach Ave and Suburban and Strand, they have redone that whole area. But unfortunately, we flood more now than we did before.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we fix that?
Okay, I'm going to give you an example of something I did for Ward 1 when I was on the school committee. When I was on the school committee, the area in front of John Brown Francis flooded every single year. And they would send someone from the Department of Public Works out, and they would take about a 12 to 15 foot long pole, and they would shove it down into the sewage, into the sewer grate to unblock it. And I remember because there was a car stranded in the middle of the road and the water was up to the windows. And I'm sorry, this is my kid. The water was up to the windows and it was raining very badly. And I went over and I talked to the actual worker there. So I went right down to the guy who's using the pipe to dig it out. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, this is the one spot that gets clogged. And when this gets clogged, it messes everything else up. So that's number one, identifying a problem. My business, it's a long answer, but the solution was so simple. My business is in that plaza, and that's why I know, and my kids went to that school. That's why I know it always flooded. So I went for a walk around the block, and I found out that in a quarter of a mile stretch of road from, not even a quarter of a mile, from Warwick Ave to that spot. Dave, can you grab my phone for me and just hang it up? I just can't. My daughter keeps calling. Thank you.
Yeah.
No. It's fine.
David can.
It's not an
answer it.
emergency. It's fine. She's probably hungry. So just text her, yeah. So, and then the other side from Warwick Ave around the business, there were no grates either. Okay. I'm sorry. There you go. Okay. Thanks. Always a dad, right? So, yeah. There were no sewer grates over there either. So for a stretch of road that was about a half a mile long, the very first sewer grate that it got to drain was this one that if it got blocked, it messed up the whole road. So I called, and this is 10 years ago now, Steve Colantuano, because I was running against him for office. And I said, Steve, I know I'm running against you, but there's nothing I can do about this. You're the one that's on. I noticed that there were no sewers along this road here. And this is why it keeps blocking up. And this is the name of the guy I talked to. And they came out about 2 months later and they dug a dry well, which has 3 sewer grates. And that area hasn't flooded in 10 years. And I will tell you that it flooded for 20 years, the guy told me, 20 years, and not one person noticed. There was only one place for the water to empty out. And once they dug that, it solved the whole problem.
Unfortunately, where we are, this has been refurbished
Mhm.
with all different types of different road things to protect us from flooding.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it isn't working. So they're done with it.
Yeah. It
For
goes
that
back to,
specific, I'm sorry for one second,
Yeah.
for that specific example,
Exactly.
it was grant money. So
Okay.
even though we propose solutions, they're like, oh, sorry, the project's over.
Mhm.
It's kind of,
So it also goes back to accountability. We've paid hundreds of millions of dollars for the 195 bridge. And nobody holds anyone accountable. It's the same thing right here in Oakland Beach. No one holds anybody accountable. So, I would say, we hired you, we paid you this amount of money, you designed it, you said it was going to work, it didn't, I'll sue them. I have no problem.
When we originally had this done, it was stated that the people that gave the design for it aren't responsible
Mhm.
because it's been done, correct? Is that kind of
Um,
what we came to?
we were given non-answers, basically. So the answer that I'm hearing, Patrick, is work with the community and the people that are working within the department to identify the issue and then hold people accountable to get it fixed, whether it's within the city or a third-party contract.
Right. And if we
Okay.
pay somebody to do something and it doesn't solve a problem, that doesn't let them off the hook. And whether it's grant money or not, it's tax money. Tax money is grant money. It's not free money.
And it's that easy to go after and say
I-
that it's wrong.
I wouldn't, one thing that goes up, one thing that makes me very angry is when a politician in our legislature goes to jail, and when he gets out, the legislature of the state of Rhode Island stands up and gives him a standing ovation. And that happened in the state of Rhode Island. We cannot be patting these guys on the back for not doing the right thing. So if I have to, it's Rhode Island. If you don't embarrass somebody, they're not going to do something about it. And I will tell you that I will not be quiet when a state rep doesn't do their job, when a senator doesn't do their job, when a city council person doesn't do their job, when a United States congressman doesn't do their job. They're out here shaking hands at Rocky Point when they give grant money for it and they're getting a picture taken, and that's all they care about. That's not the type of person I am. I will hold people accountable.
So, can I
Yeah.
move on to Beth for a second? Are we good? Yes,
Sorry.
that's okay.
So in May of 2023, the city council passed a flood mitigation plan, and it was supposed to go into effect immediately. It was approved by FEMA. It was approved by the emergency, I forget what you call them, the Rhode Island Emergency Management. And every year, they're supposed to go back and look at this plan. Well, I've been going to the city council meetings this year, and it hasn't been on the agenda this year. So it's been a year that they haven't done anything. And there were 22 specific mitigation issues that we were supposed to have done here in Oakland Beach that haven't been done. So it goes back to the accountability thing again. It's like, how many times do you guys keep passing things and then you leave the council, you leave the chambers, and you forget about it for 2 weeks or a month, It's like, that's not what we can do. When you leave the chambers, your work is just starting because you have to go and you have to put all these things into action.
Yes.
Beth, what was that plan that you started to tell people back from 2010 for Oakland and mitigation?
That gets into the stormwater.
Would you
So-
talk about that, please?
So in 2010, Oakland Beach had a committee, which the book is right
Oh,
over
the master
there.
plan.
Yeah, the master plan. And in that has so many different ways to fix the flood problem, with the flood and the storm being the main issues in there. So, I mean, this is something that's been going on in Oakland Beach for quite some time. So that book offers a lot of funding and grants that are available. I don't know, I guess I'm into the grants and the funding,
We
and
need it.
if you've already, to me, if it's already been accomplished and it's proven right, then why are we going to reinvent the wheel? I know I already said that, but it exists in there, and they've been approved by FEMA. They've been approved. So another thing too, though, is we have a storm coming in this weekend. Has anybody seen a city worker out there cleaning the streets, cleaning the gutters, cleaning the grates? Has anybody seen it? I haven't either. And I've been looking, and I've been driving around looking. I haven't either. And that storm is, even though we may not get that 10 inches, they don't know that. You know, Vermont's going to get hit hard. They don't know what's going to happen to us. They should be out there.
Thank you. Thank you both. Will the city work with CRMC to protect and maintain all city property across the coastline to prevent further erosion? So that was kind of,
Yeah.
the CRMC thing is to go back to what Beth
And they have
said
a plan.
earlier.
They have a plan too. A management plan.
There's no collaboration. It's usually, it goes back to your original comment when you started off with accountability and passing the buck. It's almost like you just fell off the cliff. If CRMC, it's like, oop, CRMC, and then CRMC, it's like, it's a city. It's like, where's the collaboration?
Even when I was at the mayor's office, he said, well, good luck. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, that just came out of your mouth.
Right.
Yes.
So question is, the CRMC, is that board, is that in from our local government, or is that just, how do they come up with these people?
Coastal Resource Management, I think, is state or federal?
It's a board.
The more or less. the
Hold
question
on.
is How they got. it.
They're appointed.
Oh,
They're appointed.
What
Yeah, I think it's a
I don't know,
board.
Is put people that are citizens of that community on that board. Take the government completely out of it, and see how that works instead. Is those people know best what's best for their community, not people that have been just put in place. And I don't know if that's something that either Pat or Beth can.
Come on, you can do it.
Yeah.
So there, to say something, David, there was, we try to have a speaker here to talk about, what's the name of that report? That they had a special meeting and they didn't invite anybody to it.
Oh, the harbor.
The harbor management,
master.
the master plan, the harbor management that did touch upon some CRMC issues. We went and looked back and it had us listed as participating in several meetings. They had a Connecticut listed. We never got notified. None of us went. They did their annual review for the plan and there was one person that showed up and then they signed off on it and they're not responding to any more. It goes back to accountability. Yes, you had a question?
Yes, the thing you were talking about where FEMA, approved several different plans and that's great, but where's the money supposed to come from?
It's a grant that we
There are
have to
grants.
apply for.
Who applies? Is it the city?
Yeah,
Or
the
we
city.
As residents.
No,
have to apply?
The city has to do it. So
I was
city,
just wondering what it was.
so city council, I'm not sure how that would all play out. I imagine you'd have to present it to the city council.
So with Oakland Beach meeting, we did try to apply for some, I was just doing research and found some grants. An association, an entity can apply.
That's
So
what
we
I
didn't,
thought. It
yes.
wasn't through the city.
it did, but the city, I would love for the city to do it because for us, I mean, how many kind of resources do we have to put it together? So organizations can do it or the city can do it, as far as I'm concerned.
So then, yeah, probably depends.
They never approved it at any point in time, the city.
No,
The people just expected it to be done, even though the city council never approved it.
wait, the mitigation?
The whole plan.
No,
that they
they-
was supposed to be
The
done.
city council did approve the 2023 mitigation plan. They did, and they were told to put it in force.
Okay. That's
And
what I'm
then,
asking.
yes.
So there was supposed to be money set aside for
That's
that,
correct.
and
That's
it never
correct.
was. That's the point.
That's
we're at.
correct.
Okay, thanks.
There was money put aside.
Well, I can't say, I didn't see last year's budget, so I don't know what was in last year's budget, quite honestly. But then again, it goes to accountability. It's like, if you're gonna vote for something, where are you gonna get the money from? Are you just gonna vote yes, just for kicks and grins, which seems to be what, sorry, I get off on my,
I think it was about 6 months ago, there was a major rainstorm here, and there was FEMA money, it might have been 7 months ago, there was FEMA money that needed to be used before the end of the year. Did any of you receive an orange notification in the paper saying, apply for this FEMA money, apply for it, apply for
You
it, apply
guys
for it?
did?
You did, I did, my business did. They were begging people in Rhode Island to take this money, because if you didn't take it before the end of the year, you weren't gonna get it.
interesting.
Yeah,
And what was the location of that? when
that
you
was
said
Warwick.
all over?
That's
All of
crazy,
Warwick.
crazy.
I never got one.
I didn't either.
I'll see if I can find it. Did you get it? Do you still have yours? Yeah, I'll look and see. It was an orange piece of paper. I might still have it at my business. I mean, they gave it to me as a business. They gave it to me as a resident. So
But you're a resident, right?
they were begging people to say they had damage so they could give you money.
That's kind of scary.
Oh, poor thing.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that we have to go back and try and get that money now. I'm saying that our government, at the end of each quarter, year, and annually, says we have a bunch of money people need to take, and we just need to figure out how to get to that money.
It's a shame because I know people that had ton of damage from storms,
Mm.
part of this.
I mean,
community.
if we can, and if we can do things as an association, I have an accounting background, you know, so.
But I'll ask you this question. Did anyone hear on the radio that they were reaching out to try and get people to take FEMA money? How
No,
many times have you heard on the radio, don't fly out of Boston, fly out of TF Green? Am I right? I am right. So they don't give the citizens what they need. They only communicate stuff like, look at how beautiful this is. They don't help the people when they need it.
The mayor did share that though, through social media.
Oh, he did? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Did you know the mayor has 20,000 followers on his personal page?
And you know, it's funny because, so we opened up our church's cooling center all last week because it was really hot, and the other day it was hot. And so, thank you, but Warwick has the library, and I didn't know about that.
Hmm.
I mean, I did know about that, but anyways. So I reached out to the mayor and said, hey, can you please let your 20,000 followers know we have a cooling center? Oh, sure, I'll do that. He never posted it.
Did you know that the city of Warwick has 39 followers?
That's insane. And the city, and if you try to post anything on the Warwick Community Board, you get laughed at and told off by
So-
one troll.
If I'm going to ask the mayor personally, if he would tell his 20,000 followers to also like the city of Warwick page. So when there's information that we need to put out,
Yeah.
that people can go there, even if they're not a friend of Frank Bacozzi. Because there's a lot of people who are not close personal friends of Frank Bacozzi that don't know how to reach out to get things done. But we have an empty, unused City of Warwick Facebook page with 39 users. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to the next question. Minimum standards.
Thank you.
Our neighborhoods are slowly but surely improving in people maintaining their properties, but there are still properties, either owner occupied or rentals, that are creating not just an eyesore, but a hazard to the neighborhood through unsanitary living conditions, animal hoarding, rat infestation, furniture, old cars, mattresses, trash, uncut lawns with invasive species, and nuisance plants spreading, etc. What will you do to enforce minimum housing standards and protect the integrity of our neighborhoods?
it's a tough one because you cannot go to someone and go clean up your yard. But what I would like to propose is establishing an outreach program And I know you kind of
Yeah.
planted the seed in me last
Look next door. I'm
meeting.
gonna wait, look next door at the house next door, because we brought up during the last meeting, and I'll let you finish, but yes.
But
I'm
in,
very passionate about this.
but in the outreach, yeah, in the program, we can put together these committees, if you will. It has to be the people wanting to help though. And we can offer our help to the people. I live across the street from a hoarder, and I went over to him and I just looked at him and went, Michael, I love you to death, but this has got to go. This has got to change. And I don't, because he has mental issues too, he really didn't realize how bad it was. We offered to help him clean it. He was very nice about it. He ultimately only moved stuff to the back and put a fence up, but you know what? I don't have to look at it anymore. It's in the back. But because we can't go up to somebody and go, okay, you're living like a pig and we're not happy.
Doesn't the city have some kind of regulation?
They're writing letters and that's it.
So yeah, they'll write letters to you, but they won't write letters to themselves. If this, well, if the city doesn't take care of their property, it's like an adult and a child, it's like, well, don't copy me. But we got to get the city to do their work and to make it beautiful so that it's like, make it beautiful with us. Let's make it all beautiful. Let's work together.
I'm confused because I thought the city did find people. I have a friend who has a neighbor who's always calling on her if a branch falls or the slightest little thing. And she gets these notices, and then so she's going to be fined if she doesn't get it cleaned up by such and such a time.
There is minimum housing, and they do go around, because I know even for a fact my street, like it takes one house and then they come down the street and they do ticket those houses. And
But are they following through with it?
there was a program, I don't know if it was a program or whatever, but we have a situation where there are people that do have some mental illnesses and whatnot and hoarding capability, and they did come actually and help them clean everything out. It was kind of crazy. I know they kind of threw it in with a little bit of medical stuff going on, because there was somebody there who was on oxygen at one point, and how do you get ambulance in if you need, or fire trucks and that type of thing. But they did clean out a lot. It was like 2 dumpsters.
Who
full of
was it,
stuff.
Michelle? Do you know?
I'm not gonna.
No, no.
Oh,
I'm saying different part. Who came to help?
It was all through minimum housing. It was all through,
Oh.
Lucille or Lucy.
Lucille Dean.
She came here. It was all through that, like that. And they do, and it takes long. I know she had come here as a guest speaker before, and she did say it does take time. They have to put the letters out. There has to be a certain time, and then there has to be, court. And then if it's something else, it resets. There is a process, and maybe that process could be tweaked a little bit to make it more easier, because that does seem to be a common problem. But I will say I've definitely seen houses getting more cleaned up than they were when I first moved in.
Mhm. This is actually, I'm going to open up a little bit here. I get a little bit emotional with this question because it hits home for me. My wife, about 10 years ago now, at age 44, she got dementia. And she was a nurse. We lost half of our income immediately. She was fired from her job. They didn't know she had dementia, because who gets dementia at age 44? They just thought she doesn't want to do her job. They fired her. And I had no idea what was going on. I thought she was suffering from depression. I asked her to go get help, and she said that she would go to the doctor, and we got her all signed up. By the time she got in the car, she forgot why she was going in the car, and she went and got ice cream. And I said, "How was your doctor's appointment?" She would say, "Great." And I didn't know she wasn't even going to the doctor because HIPAA. And then also I started getting missed appointment fees. So a lot of what's happening in someone's house isn't particularly necessarily a person being lazy or unable to do the job. There's a problem. And I will tell you that I was working 3 jobs at the time, taking care of my 3 kids and taking care of my sick wife. And I didn't have time to do my lawn. I had been on the school committee for a few years, and some other people on the committee reached out to me and asked how I was doing. And I know we're online, so I'm going to thank Beth Furtado and her son, Zach, who started a lawn care company. Beth had her son come over and paid him to do my lawn for me for the entire summer. And it was so uplifting to have somebody reach out to do that for me. I don't know if his company's still in business. I think they went out of business. But I was so thankful. And I had friends that reached out that were friends of Susan's that worked with her when she was a nurse, and they knew I was overwhelmed. There was nothing I could do. It was just too much to work 3 jobs and take care of everything. So I think before we talk about fines, I think we need to be compassionate and find out why it's happening. And I just wrote a couple of notes here. There are groups out there that are always looking for volunteer work, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and even our high schools require our students to do volunteer work nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think that rather than identify the fact that a house doesn't look the way we want it to, let's find out why the person's struggling. And there's just nice ways to go about doing that.
And that's where we can put it together in the outreach program.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that would be great.
Could you pivot though and share what you would do if you were
Mhm.
elected to maintain the city? I mean, the city's a bigger problem. You alluded to the city not
Mhm.
taking care of its own property.
So actually, can I pause that? Because we do have a specific question about
Okay.
that. We do have a question on that.
Great
Um,
question, by the way. Yeah.
Okay. So beautification, what plans do you have in place to initiate and maintain a beautification effort for our neighborhoods? And more specifically, our main roads like Oakland Beach Ave, for example. Currently, the city only cleans or weeds Oakland Beach Ave once every 1 to 2 years. The rest of the time, the main street in Oakland Beach is full of uncut weeds and trash. And I have come to find out that the city only has 2 people. I don't know if this is, I haven't fact checked it, but I heard there's only 2 people for the whole city that are in charge of cutting grass, et cetera. Do you know if that's true or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
so if that is, so in 2010, in the master plan, they complained back then that they didn't have enough people to work. So if you've gone from 2010 to 2024 and you're still saying the exact same excuse, I think it's time that we pay a department a visit. It's time that we start asking them, how can you have the same excuse for that many years?
There's definitely more than 2 people cutting.
Oh, there are.
I live near the softball field up on the beach at the end, and it's manicured beautifully, like twice a week. All sorts of machines come out. So.
Maybe they pick and choose. I don't know.
So
I-
what was, so,
Oh, yeah.
David, you had a comment, but then I want to go back to the question. I think I derailed it with a number of people. I apologize. David?
So, as some of you folks know, I tried doing cleanups down the beach. And this goes into the whole city spending money where they don't need to spend money. When we have people that are actually willing to do it for free and not giving parking passes because they're paying somebody to do it, that's a problem. That money can be spent anywhere else, and they choose to pay people that probably won't willing to do the job. They hire like kids that will just sit around their phones and play all day. Why do they have 4 people down at the checking people in to park their cars? Why? And they sit there doing this. We're wasting money for no reason. And I don't know why they won't let us, or let me and people that get to go clean up, parking passes to simply just clean.
They only stay there till 6 o'clock
Yeah.
anyway, because people know that. So out of towners just come after 6 o'clock and go in the parking lot.
That money can be spent somewhere else.
But the city has a responsibility. They have a department that is supposed to keep the public area clean. I have a city lot that right across the street from me. I have been told I will be arrested if I clean it. That is hogwash. And then I asked the mayor, I said, is that true? Would you guys, I should ask Jim, is that true? Are they really going to arrest me? And the mayor says, yes, they have every right to arrest you because you're going on private property. It's like, no, it's not private property. It's city property. It's our property.
We had a thing on Oakland Beach, Strand Ave, where the whole middle of cars would run over this, that, and everything else. The gentleman at Rick down at the end of the street, myself, cleaned it all up, put seed in it, this, that, and everything else. And then we were gonna put like little stakes so they wouldn't drive through it. And they came by the city and said, you can't do that. This is city property. You cannot stop people from doing, driving through. Even
Oh,
though.
was it like a right of way?
No, it's not, it's a median, it's a
Oh.
flood mitigation thing. They're not supposed to be.
But now they drop big, huge rocks in the middle of that, still drive a car through.
Oh, I know where you're talking about. Okay.
So let's get back to the question for 1 second. With the limitations right now, right, with budgetary people, whatever, what plans do you have to work within the city to initiate and maintain? Because initiating is happening in some cases. The maintaining is when we fall off the cliff.
Well, city workers aren't gonna like this, but I'm gonna put GPS in every single car. So we know where they are. That's gonna be the first thing we're gonna do. Okay? So, and they're gonna fight me on it. And look, I'm not a fan of a person going around videotaping people not doing their job, but you can literally go on YouTube and Google Warwick city workers are not doing something, whatever it is. Okay. And not a fan. I don't encourage people to go around and antagonize our city workers. But I will tell you that there's a video online of a truck that puts, I think it's called cold tar or cold asphalt. Cold patch, thank you. Cold patch into a truck, and they're supposed to go around and fill potholes. And they drive around all morning, then they stop for lunch, and they drive around all afternoon, and then they take the cold patch and they throw it out and they check out for the day.
Behind the school, they throw it.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
I see 'em.
Okay, so we want to hold people accountable. How about have them do their job? In 2012, the city budget was $69 million. Sorry. The city budget was $69 million. So you can tell me all day long we don't have the money to do this, but do you know what the city budget is now? It was 69 million. Let's make it 70 million just to make it nice. It's 140 million now. It's double. It is double. 69 million, 140 million. Where's the money going? Where is the money going? How can you take 70 million extra from the residents of Warwick and tell me you don't have people to clean up the road? And to take cold patch, which costs money, and throw it out instead of doing your job should be against the law. We'll talk about accountability for a minute because I'll remind you it was in the Warwick Beacon. There was a city employee who took home materials from the city. They built their deck and they put the cement in the ground to build their deck. And then they were let go with pay. And then after the investigation, they were fired without pay. For 2 years, they sat at home and they fought to get their job back. And they got their job back and they got their pay back because they said that there was no rule that said you couldn't borrow materials from the city and bring it to your house if you had every intention of bringing it back. And they were questioned, how do you bring back the cement? It didn't matter. There wasn't a rule that said it. They have their job back. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So we need to pay visits to the department heads
Yeah.
because the department heads have to start taking responsibility and stop finger pointing, stop saying, it's not my department
Mhm.
or it's not my fault. let's just get it done. And don't use the same excuse as 2010. It's like, really?
Thank you both. The next question is, how will you navigate meeting the needs of your constituents when working with unresponsive? I think we can pass this because
I think
without
we're
it,
well over that, yeah.
understaffed or overworked departments that are not responsive, pass the buck.
Do you feel that it's an internal issue, or I guess it's a two-parter, internal issue or a lack of commitment on the part of the city to direct funds to maintenance, beautification, cleaning? And how do you direct the limited funds that we have?
Okay, I'll take this one if you don't mind.
Okay.
Every new tax dollar that comes into the city, only 1 penny of it goes to active work being done in the city. The other 99 cents goes to what's called OPEB. It's like post benefits of retirees. So 99% of it goes to retirees who've already worked for the city, and only 1 penny of it goes to what's actually happening in the city. It's why the mayor and the city council don't want to have a 5-year forecast, because they don't want to tell people before November, for the next 4 years, you're getting the maximum, the maximum tax increase. They don't want to tell you this. We are in financial straits right now, and we're building ice rinks, and we purchased a $400,000 assault vehicle.
That was insane. I saw that. Someone just mentioned that.
Yes. So only 1 penny. And this isn't my data. The city hired a company, and they did this report about 8 or 10 years ago. But nobody talks about it, because when they talk about it, the Warwick Beacon says, and this is the Warwick Beacon, they say, the crazies don't know what they're talking about. This is what they say. It was in the paper.
Well, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
What you would do as mayor to attack that problem? Like, what would your first step be to attack that?
The first thing I would do would be tell every single resident in Warwick what the actual financial situation of this city is, and explain that we didn't get this way overnight, and we're not going to dig our way out of it overnight. But there's a problem. That's the first thing we have to do, because the media picks and chooses which things they're going to write about. They don't write about former mayors that crashed into people at a fast food restaurant and then drove home and got allowed to be picked up the next day. They don't. But they do write about what a great job Mayor Picozzi did fighting the FAA to make sure that this road got put in directly to the airport connector. They do not write an article that says the mayor did not have all of his stuff done legally, properly, and in a contract to begin with, which would have avoided weeks and weeks and months of fighting with the FAA. If you don't have a person that knows how to do their job, the outcome is not going to be good.
Or how we never turned in any accounting for 30 years, so we lost our grant from the FAA.
Right.
I have a question. So.
And I don't want to bash the mayor all night, first of all. I don't.
I'm not against the mayor.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this has nothing to do with that.
Right, all right.
I've had different opinions with the city. Every time I called Parks and Recs, they were there and took care of the problem.
Mhm.
If not, someone called me back. When I had problems with the city, same thing. The police chief, who's no longer there in a week, but still, same thing. I have never had a problem. It seems like a lot of people here at this meeting hear more about the oceanfront view and the disconnect with the city. So how, Beth, can you, running for this area, protect them? Because that's what the biggest thing here is. These people feel like they're left out of the dock.
Because
That middleman.
Because we are left out. I mean, even where
How are you gonna fix that?
communication and accountability. It's accountability is the only way we can do that. The department heads.
You can't.
So that is a problem. That's an issue, because the mayor says he's everybody's boss. Nobody has a job description. Nobody has what their duties are. And that really is one of my first things that I want.
Budget that we didn't need that assault thing. I know something that happened right down the street from my house just a few months ago that they could have used that SWAT car and maybe saved a life. We have reasons why we buy things. Do we know why we bought it?
I have
Why
no
did they
idea
use
why
it?
we
Why
bought
did
that.
Why did they, if we had it, if we spent the money, why was it not used if it could have helped and saved a life?
We had it.
I didn't hear the whole thing.
Why do you mean you can get out of it? Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
like there's grants that they have to file for and things they have to apply for to get this money. Do we know where the money came from? Is it grant money? Did it come out of city funds? Do we know that exactly as we're?
So that,
So
so
one second, one second.
The city is growing so fast. It's probably gonna be a necessary thing. The way they're building and, you know, a lot
It-
of people are gonna be living
If
there.
you watch the-
so it is an issue. We were given in 2021, $600,000 to do the project to beautify Oakland Beach. That includes the splash pad, a new seawall, to protect the coastline, a wheelchair accessible boardwalk. We were told here in this meeting by Councilwoman that we couldn't do the splash pad the way that we wanted to. We couldn't put a top on it because we didn't have enough money. So it's, well, where is the money? Where have you spent it? Where are we with it all? That's 4 phone calls ago. I still don't have the answer. I want to know where that $600,000 is. I worked for a nonprofit organization. I had to give backup, proof, everything to document everything. Yeah,
Do we know where the funds came from to purchase it is my question.
I
do
know where
know.
the funds came from.
They wrote it in the newspaper. It was in the Warwick Beacon on the front page. It was $400,000 from a grant. Grant money is tax money. The
But
May,
the grants are specific to what they're for.
It was specific for the Oakland Beach
So
beautification.
she's asking a
She's
different
talking about the
question.
tank.
She's talking
she's
about.
talking about the assault vehicle.
Oh,
Right,
that, I don't know.
right. Right.
Sorry.
How many people in here would have rather had the grant writer write a grant to get better drainage in Oakland Beach rather than a grant for a $400,000 assault vehicle?
Me, I don't have a drainage issue.
We don't have.
Okay. All right. So how many people would have rather had a grant to beautify Oakland Beach Road?
I don't understand, why do we need an assault vehicle?
I don't know.
Okay,
Let's ask.
folks, I don't want to derail the meeting about the assault vehicle. Some
Yeah.
people think we might need it, and some people think it's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
let's,
We skipped over something.
Okay.
When I handed out the budget, okay, from the city. I have to tell you, what's not supposed to be distributed, you peons were not to see this until after the election. I want you to let that sink in.
where did you? how
Did you guys get
this?
one?
How did you get this?
Um,
Oh, so we're not.
I got it.
I don't want to say where I got it, but
I got
that's
it.
official letter, yes, okay?
That was my last one.
Okay.
So this is not
I can-
phony, this is straight out of the city office. But I beg of you folks to look over this. Look at the best and the worst scenario, and the worst scenario that they're saying is not the worst. I mean, please read over this carefully and know that this was going to be withheld from us until after the election.
So,
That's what our city fathers are doing too. This goes to the mayor's office, this goes through the whole of all of these people that are running this city. And we have got, my friends, unless you want to continue with the same baloney, you've got to change the leadership.
so I did hear that this was not supposed to get released until after the election. I will review it. We don't have time to do that now. Thank you for providing this. Yeah, we're not gonna do it at this meeting though. Thank you for providing it to us. Yes.
Do you have a question?
I want to know, will you prosecute former city officials if you find out through an audit, should you get in office, that there was wrongdoing?
No one is above the law.
Amen.
No one is above the law. The end. That's it.
We have to stop allowing these department heads to get away with everything. And I mean, being a prior boss, I understand that you want to back your employees, you know, you think the world of them and that. But when they're not doing justice to all of us, you know, it's time to wake up.
So before we continue, I want to make sure that you know that I actually feel bad for our city workers sometimes. And I'll tell you the reason why. They take the brunt of all of our issues. We can sit here and say that we're not happy with a politician isn't doing his job, and then we take it on the people who are doing the job. The guy that had that 12-foot pole that was sitting there trying to clear that drain, he goes into work every single day. And there are days when he probably doesn't see his family because he's asked to do overtime. So I want to give them credit for what they do, number one. Okay? I want to make sure that we protect our officers. And if we need an armored vehicle to do that, I want to make sure you have it. Okay? I want to make sure that we don't have a trash truck that's out of commission and that people are getting their trash picked up every week, which I think they're working towards doing that. I'm very thankful for that. But we have departments right now that the head of the department is out on mental leave because he was, what is the word?
Accused of harassment.
Right, accused of harassment, accused. I don't want to say he harassed. I want to say accused. And this is not a one-time incident. Okay, this is a culture that needs to be changed. The people that were under whoever that was could not complain. And I'll take it the other step is that the head of the department gave all the overtime to one person who they were related to. And who are you going to complain to? You're going to complain to the guy that gave it's wrong. So like, it's a culture. So like, I'd like to go in for companies. We do cultural training and we teach them what's right and wrong. You know, it's not.
Speak to that. In Rhode Island in particular, Warwick, same thing. Nepotism is a big problem. People with connections, getting jobs, and it happens all the time. And I think this is part of what you're talking about, you know, and then people who are not qualified are put into higher up positions. We see across in the baseball field, the sanitation department has been great. The people who come over and do cleaning, I don't know why they focus on the softball field and not the rest of some of the areas. But the city workers have been really great for us, and the police are awesome. And so, but the higher ups and the heads of these departments and city hall as well, when you call and you can't talk to someone, no one's answering the phone. Do you have any solutions to around that? The hiring practices, firing practices, and
That's the personnel department.
So there is a question on here around nepotism and who you know to get stuff done.
And
So
it's true. All the hiring is done through our personnel department. And, you know, until you start making people accountable and you know what, make life uneasy for those department heads. Not that I want to make people unhappy, but you have to start doing your job. You got to stop hiring somebody because you know them. You have to stop giving that person a bid because you know them. That's not the way government is supposed to run. It's not the way a city should run. It's not the way a business would run. And the city is a business in it, you know, in an indirect way.
So the next question was kind of half of it was addressed earlier when we were talking about overall beautification. business and community development, how will you work with the city to make the city regulations departments more business friendly oriented so we can attract more businesses into the area? Oakland Beach was mentioned in the master plan and the Warwick master plan as a village center. What we do it to attract more businesses to the area to help not only with the city's tax base, but to also enhance and contribute toward a community feel to the area. And if we can tack Dawn's question on here about what can you do to address the rent inflation for commercial spaces as well.
But it's not only the rent inflation. What was it? This business wanted to come into Warwick and the city dictated to them how they had to do their landscaping, how they had to have a planter put on the front of their business. They started laying out so many rules, like it's an HOA.
That's all part of the zoning though. Because I had a business a while back with massage therapist, and I had to make sure that the zoning was perfect at the building. You had to have someone, you had to have bushes, you had to have this, you had to have, there was a lot, you had to do, the fire inspectors would come, you had to have specific things for the.
No, I understand that, but when they start getting into, gee, you can't have this kind of a plant or flowers or, I mean, I realize that it's zoning, but if we're having a hard time getting people, businesses in, businesses are leaving.
So what would you do if it is a zoning issue? Because part of the question is the
You have to go to the
regulations
zoning.
and do what?
I think as a small business owner, and what you're referring to, there's a successful business in Cranston that was going to buy a building here in Warwick and move their entire operation here. They got so sick of listening about what flower pots they were supposed to have in front of their building. They said enough is enough. They're not coming to Warwick. Plain and simple. They're not. They bought a bigger building in Cranston. It happened last month. We're not talking about not having fire code properly. This is completely, it was a flower thing. And you said, I don't know who said it. If you want
Decor,
to,
you know.
if you want to put a picnic, not a picnic table, bench out, there's an approved bench that the city of Warwick says you have to have, and it's very expensive. And if you don't have that bench, you don't get to put a bench up. So,
So that's for businesses.
That's for business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but we were talking about businesses.
Yeah, we're talking about the
We're
business.
talking about businesses, yeah. So what I would say is, what I would say is that we should let a business move in, and we'll give them 1 year to make some money. And then say, over the course of the year, show us what you're doing to get it to the point where we're in agreement. How hard is that?
So you have to change
How hard is
the
that?
zoning on it though,
You know, but listen,
if it's even written.
when we had COVID, every single thing changed. And that was, well, the kids are fine to be at home from school. As long as you wear a mask and as long as you did this, whatever it was, COVID threw everything out the window, and we all, not everybody, we made it through it. We're talking about bringing businesses into Warwick. You know, we got to work with these people to say, this is our expectation. This is what you can afford to do right now, as long as all the safety stuff is there. Show us progress over the course of the next 12 months. And can you have this done in 12 months? And if not, where are you lacking? Where are you lacking? Oh, you're going to get it done in 13 months? Okay, great. Thank you. How hard is that?
So how can the mayor or the city council person work with, like, how would you affect a zoning change or a timeline? Like, how do you do that?
You'd have to go to the zoning commission. That would probably be, you know, I'm really not that
Okay,
familiar
that's
with
fair,
the
that's fair,
zoning.
that's fair.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't know their rules and regulations.
But do you see a partnership between the city and the villages being important?
Oh, absolutely.
In my experience here, we have beautiful villages that the city isn't invested in. So would you advocate for more of a partnership? It's the
Yes.
associations that tend to maintain these villages, not the city. Yet we have a Warwick Tourism Department. What are they promoting?
Well,
The airport.
oh, it is. Yeah.
And We have a lot of like beautiful spots in work, but there doesn't seem to be a partnership with the city, or the city doesn't seem to see the importance of partnering with our villages to make them the best for everybody, residents, businesses, tourists.
It's true.
I was told not to be sarcastic tonight by a very close friend and family member, but maybe what we really need is more, and I'm going to be sarcastic, more rotaries, because rotaries fix everything, right? I am joking with you. That is a joke, and I apologize, Pauline, if you're watching. Okay, so how many millions of dollars did we spend on
The Rotary.
the City Hall neighborhood? You know, I mean, it's a fact. They spend money where they want to spend money, and they don't spend money where they don't want to spend money. And I'm going to tell you something. When I was on the school committee, I was, and this is going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. When I was on the school committee, I was citywide, and I told you this, Beth. And I want everybody to know, because it's not right, and we need to hold our politicians accountable. If I get elected, I want you to hold me accountable. Ready? I sat down in a meeting with Scott Avedizian, who, by the way, used grant money to put up a sign in each of the villages to tell everybody how this is a village, this is a village, this is a village. The Lakewood sign has been down for about 8 years because someone hit it with a car. It never went back up. Anyway, Mayor Avedizian told me that if I was going to run for re-election as a citywide candidate, I only had to worry about 2 wards, and only 2 wards. Ward 1 and Ward 9. Because if you get the votes of Ward 1 and you get the votes of Ward 9, it doesn't matter who else votes for you, because you're going to win the election. Straight from his mouth. And if he says he didn't say it, our former mayor's a liar. And we know his credibility right now. I'm telling you that there are parts of this city that have been ignored by administration because they only care about you on July 4th. They care about you on a holiday, and they care about you when they come down here and shake your hand and get photo ops with you. And other than that, they don't care in between. And as long as they smile and they know your name and they tell you that they care about you, they don't care. Because if they get 30% of the vote of all the wards that aren't 1 and 9, they win. And it is disgusting that somebody in office would feel that way about the people from an area. My family grew up in Buttonwoods. That's where we're from. Buttonwoods is ignored.
What is Ward 9?
Ward 9 is the area right next to East Greenwich, and Ward 1 is Governor Francis and the area in Cranston. So the area near East Greenwich, Potawatomi area, Governor Goddard Park area, that area is Ward 9. Cedar Hill School. Cedar Hill gets everything. Oakland Beach school has to beg for stuff.
Is it because there are more people in those wards, or is it because there are more voters in those wards that show up?
Well,
That's the question. No, that's.
I think she's right. It's where the money is. That's where the money is.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, I'll go to my grave telling you that is a fact that I was told that. So I think the best thing to do would be to go look at the actual Secretary of State's website, see how many people vote in those areas, and see if the numbers work out that way. Okay.
I will say it's very hard to affect change in work with the ward system. I'm very unfamiliar with that. When you can only vote for one person out of how many, 9 to 10?
9 wards.
Who make decisions for the whole city? It's a very crazy system.
And they redistrict constantly
Yes.
to make sure that certain people get in. Yeah, they redistrict to make sure certain people keep getting voted in.
I come from an area where we could vote 9, city council out of 12. We had a very big school committee. We had 9 out of 12 on school committee. Very small school committee in Warwick.
Yeah.
So I have
So-
one question to that. So with that being said, what is either of your plans as far as uniting the wards? Because I will say that is one thing, like living here and work, it just seems everybody's divided ward-wise, and now you're saying the same thing as it goes up to council and mayor, focusing in the different areas. So what are your plans to try to unite that and make it a whole community instead of this village versus this ward versus that ward, and attention being spread amongst the whole?
You'd have to
entire city of
work
Warwick?
with the other council people.
Mhm.
You know,
There are 39 cities and towns in Warwick, and I call them fiefdoms. In the state, sorry, in the state. There's 39 cities and towns in the state. Everybody wants to be the big cheese of their little area, and we all need to work together. And it comes back to the very beginning of this meeting when we said accountability. So I want the people of Cranston to come to Warwick for things. I want the people of Warwick to go to Cranston for things. I have an idea of getting our state legislators from Warwick, Cranston, East Greenwich, Coventry together to work together, because Providence is so big. We get outvoted on everything. We have the head of the House of Representatives in the legislature right now, the House. Sakachi is the head of the House of Representatives. He's from Warwick.
Yeah.
Joe McNamara is the head of the Democratic Party of all of Rhode Island. These are two Warwick people. And Providence outvotes us all the time, and Providence gets all the money. In 2011, when they did a funding formula for education, did you know that they took money away from us and gave it to Barrington? Because they said Barrington needed the money more than we did. And they sent our money to Pawtucket. They sent it to Pawtucket, Providence, Barrington, because that's what the formula funding people said we needed to do. So if we have a coalition of people, not just the villages, but all of this area, then we can start making our areas better, because we'll be working together. We can't have 39 cities and towns, and we need to celebrate each of the villages, but we're all Warwick. Okay. How many people went to Gatsby Day Parade or Gatsby Day events? Nobody.
Jim did.
Some people did. Oh, great. Awesome. I want the people from Gatsby Days to come here to support you. We need to support each other. We need to find a way to make that happen.
So
You
we could have a parade. We could have.
Yes, let's have an Oakland Beach parade.
Oakland Beach.
Yeah.
Warwick Neck does it. We could do it.
To be, because we've been going long, I'm going to combine
Sorry.
a couple of questions. Many of the city implemented community initiatives are not being maintained after. They're just kind of done and left. What would you do to make sure things, as an example, Beth, I'm sure you're aware, Patrick, you might not be, the public bathrooms here at the beach. We're telling everybody come to the beach, everybody July 4th, we have to beg for porta potties because people are literally taking a dump out in front of people's houses.
Awful.
But that's department's not doing their job. Part of the rec should be there. They should be cleaning those, especially in the summer. They don't even have to do it in the winter.
Because they said they get too dirty and vandalized.
So I just have buildings to sit there, because Buckland's not one that's never opened up. I haven't been down to Buckland Beach for a while, but,
One of
or
those
City
fixes
Park.
in the box, put them in the air.
So how would you address
Yeah,
that?
that's gotta change.
Yeah, it's unsanitary. It's just unsanitary. So again, I think it comes down to, like we keep saying it all night, accountability.
It's also, I'm sorry to interject, but I think it's also funding, right?
Yeah, and we're spending $140 million, and 12 years ago, we spent $69 million.
But you can't
where's
really,
the money?
you can't really say it's necessarily the funding, because the way that they do the budget, I sat there for 17 hours this year for their budget meeting. I've done budgets for 45 years. I know how they work. I looked at their budget and it's like, I have never seen so many hidden
Mhm.
areas in a budget ever. So if you don't make those departments break them out, make the mayor break them out, because ultimately you would be responsible. Is if you're gonna keep it lumped in there, then you can't go to the department and go, you do have the money, because they don't know. Just like when the schools were saying they don't have any maintenance money. Well, you do, it's just that they lump it somewhere else so you can't see it. Let's break it out. And then we can't get the whining anymore. We can't get, we won't get those excuses anymore.
So then how would you do that? If you're at a city council meeting, how would you do that?
Oh, I'd be bitching.
State law requires every single school to have a very specific accounting method. And I know that we say that stuff's hidden. I know we say that.
Well, maintenance is hidden. We know that for a fact.
So Rhode Island has the general fund. And we all know where the money goes, into the general fund, and it goes wherever it goes. And we never know anymore where it is. Warwick should not have that. And if they have it, it's got to stop.
So,
Yeah.
but to answer your
That's
question
gotta stop.
seriously, the mayor is in charge of the budget. So it is the mayor's responsibility to make sure that we have the correct categories. How we don't have all the right categories really goes beyond my comprehension. Because like I said, I have done budgets for way too many years. And I have just never, after 17 hours of listening to and then they'll take, they took the $150,000 for the speed, 150 million for the speed trap that they're going to put in the schools. They hadn't even voted on it yet. So they took the money and they decided to move it around, spend it in different areas. And then the very next meeting, they passed it to where they're going to put the cameras up and everybody's going to start getting tickets in the mail for going over the speed limit in the schools. So here you are, you approve a budget with this money that was in there for specifics. Then you take it out, you move it somewhere else where you want. You should have heard these, I was getting dizzy trying to I had lines going everywhere where they were moving this money to and fro, and this council person didn't agree, this one didn't agree. And then they never put it, so the money's not even in there now to buy it. Where are they going to get the money from? Because they use the money for other things. It's like they do crazy things.
And they do it all year long.
And they do it all year round.
So
David had a comment.
So what you were saying about the general fund, I know that's a fact, that the city of Warwick has one, because my wife works in a school here in Warwick, and the money they get from tuition from the kids with special, no, the peers that don't have special needs, because they pay tuition there, goes to the general fund.
Yeah.
So I want to give you something that I actually did, because I think this will give you an idea of what I'm willing to do. When I was on the school committee, we had a person in charge of finance. He wasn't doing his job. He was fired. When I was on the school committee, we had a superintendent that we were not happy with. I pushed to have him replaced. He lost his job. and I'm not going to tell you the name of the person, but we had employees that worked for the schools that weren't doing their job. They fought and said, you can't let me go. And the heads of the departments did not do the proper documentation. So we had to keep them on staff. And the same head of a department came in 2 months in a row after I had to give him the people their job back because they weren't doing their job because they were a short timer. We all know what short timers are. Okay. They're retiring at the end of the year. And I said, you're going to be really short time if you come before me again and you do not have the documentation I need to follow through on supporting administration to remove this person that's not doing their job. You'll be the one without the job. That person did not come back before us without documentation. And that's how you fix a problem. And that's a fact. It happened. It happened I can't say exactly the specifics because it was in, you go to from public session to private session to deal with employee situations, and then you come back out. And that's what it comes down to. You have to be a person. Listen, I want to be everybody's friend. We all do, but we have a job to do. I'm not going to be online telling you what ice cream I eat. No one cares what kind of ice cream I eat. I don't eat ice cream anymore. I can't. I'm going to get diabetes. Anyway, so there you go. There's my answer.
So I am going to skip 2 because we, number 11 and 12, because we've already addressed them as far as working with CRMC for mitigation. And then the nepotism question that was already asked. So the last question, there is anticipation that residential taxes will continue increasing. What is your position on helping your constituents who are already struggling to make ends meet? And what can you do to minimize tax increases?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So I know for a fact that letters are coming out, and the letters are going to say that you must call this phone number and make an appointment to have your house re-evaluated. They want to come into your house to do it. Do not let them do it. Do not call them. We cannot have that. Property taxes, and you'll see on the handout that I gave out, and by the way, that I got that from the Beacon.
Oh, great.
So,
Awesome.
yeah. You'll see on there, they want to increase our property tax 4% per year, which is the max that they can do. They tried to do it this year at this year's budget, but somehow after 17 hours, my head was mush. I really can't tell you how they ended up saving us. But when they reevaluate your house and then they raise your tax, you got to remember that 4%. Think of it that, you know, what it was this year. Think of what it was last year. When I got my tax bill, I get a senior discount. If I take out my senior discount, mine was higher than 1.8, whatever it was that they said.
You
Mine
get a
was in the
senior discount
twos.
in Warwick?
Yeah.
I went online to see, and it wasn't listed. And so a lot of, I don't know that everybody would know about.
Property tax and your utilities. When Rhode Island Energy came, I lost my senior discount, but I still get it with the water.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people don't, as an example, I specifically put that question in because I was hoping somebody was going to talk about discounts for senior citizens, but I went online and they had all the municipalities that offer it.
See, it shouldn't be so quiet. I'm so surprised how many people don't realize it.
No, I mean, I went and researched it.
So if you go to the assessor's office, they'll automatically do everything because as I think I'm right that we even get a discount in our cars and our tax. I think, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That's my only copy and I need it.
I'm gonna take a picture of it. Thank you.
There's a
That's awesome.
discount for veterans too, just so you know.
So what I'm going to say is if they keep spending money the way that they're spending without somebody, you know, without new people going in there, making people accountable, making departments, you know, start telling us, you know, itemize your things. I want to know where all the money is going. I want you to justify why you think you need this much money, especially when you're telling me that 2010 and 2024, you still can't do it. I just don't want to hear it.
May I please remind you told me during that 17 hours, and I know your head was spinning, but you told me the reason that Mayor Picosi didn't raise the tax rate any higher was because he found saved money, some of it.
Oh, yeah,
30
he
years
did.
old.
He did.
So he wiped out basically
Our
all
rain,
the old
yeah.
reserves.
Our
He
rain,
spent them.
it's called the
They
arbor.
They disappeared. So we have hardly any more reserves left. That you didn't hear. But that's why this wonderful mayor of ours saved us all this money. He didn't save us a damn dime. He wiped out our reserve and our treasury.
What, David?
So why not do what the state, well, certain reps in the House wanted to have an inspector general, why don't we do something like that here? Have a person that keeps track of what's being spent in our state, in our city, and keeps and holds the.
Well,
heads accountable for what
that's
they're
the
doing.
job of the finance manager, Peter Schaefer. I mean, that is his job.
Well, I mean, and this is still going on, so that's.
So, and that's another thing that I want. I want an organizational chart. I want to know why the mayor says he's the only one that can give everybody a raise. It's his discretion. It's like, you don't work, you're not in that office with that person. Why should it be your discretion that you're going to give this person who's not in the union a higher raise than the person who is union? That's causing a lot of,
So I didn't get a chance to answer the question, but before I do, I'm going to take 1 minute and only 1 minute to talk about the CRMC, because I did a lot of homework
Oh,
on that.
great.
Okay. As soon as I get off the phone with you, after you sent the email to me, I called a friend of mine who works for the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. He gave me the phone number of somebody over at the CRMC. I have the person's name and phone number. It's Sean Feely.
shouldn't take.
What?
Go ahead.
No,
You should announce it.
I have a friend whose son, so this is all about removing the knotweed,
Yes.
which is a invasive species, okay? And I'm only gonna take a minute on this, and
Okay,
after our
if you
meeting,
have
I'm
info,
happy to
please
talk to
do.
you.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a friend whose son is an Eagle Scout, and he's been working with somebody in the city for an Eagle Scout project. If you're not familiar, you have something in your community that you have to do. And they already had an Eagle Scout project already picked out. So I said to my friend, why don't you have your son say he has 2 projects? One is original, and the second, cutting back and removing the knotweed at Oakland Beach.
And also Bitterroot, because the Bitterroot is taking over all those wild roses.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll have to look into
Yeah,
that
that's
specifically. I
fine,
looked
that's
at
fine.
knotweed, but I'm
That's
happy to
fine,
get
yes,
more info,
please.
okay? So the same, the head of the department of the city who's responsible for this particular thing said, those both sound like great projects. If you're gonna remove the knotweed, we can cut it back, but we cannot remove all of it, because if you do, you have to dig 10 feet down because that's where it is. You also can't burn it because it grows in Japan on the sides of volcanoes. So it just always grows back. But he said there's nothing against cutting it back. You just need to make sure that you involve CRMC and one other agency, and I have notes, to make sure that when you remove it, you just don't take it and throw it in the dump. It needs to be actually removed properly. So, but there's nothing against, and it's not against the law to cut it back. Now, my friend said, we're going to do this other project, because I really just asked him to do that for you. But my friend said they already reached out to a bunch of Eagle Scouts in Buttonwoods who are looking for projects to do. So my suggestion would be reaching out to these groups, going to the city and saying, hey, this was already presented to you, and I have the person's name, and I'll hold him accountable.
Thank you.
And he can watch that. And we'll make sure these things get done, because sometimes it's a simple answer.
There's another place also, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Mhm.
They have a special fund for it,
Okay.
so we can research that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
There's
love
so
I
many.
put a lot of
funds
work
out
into that
there,
one, so I
you know.
wanted to make sure you knew.
I'm glad you did.
I held it, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I
That's very
didn't-
important. I'm gonna follow
yeah.
up.
Okay,
with
great.
Both of you on those things,
Yeah.
because that's something I really want to take action on.
Yeah. Now, regarding the taxes, like I said, we did not get into this overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. When I was on the school committee, we had a grant writer, and we paid that grant writer, I think $60,000 or $70,000 a year to write grants. And they brought in about $3 million of grant money to the schools every single year. And then somebody said, we can't afford, and half of his salary he had a grant for. So we only paid him $30,000. So there are professional grant writers that we can hire to do jobs like getting money for special projects, but they are very specific. And I'm really sorry that lady left. They are very specific. Grants are very specific. And somebody did write a very specific grant for that armored vehicle. Okay. So if we get a grant writer who can probably write a grant for half their salary, we can get more money coming in, which is going to really help Warwick. They got rid of that grant writer and they lost the $3 million a year going to the schools because they couldn't. This was after I was on the school committee. They couldn't justify spending $60,000 a year on a grant writer. What was 30? Yep. They just couldn't justify it. This was after I was on the committee. And I wouldn't have done that. I would have hired 2 more grant writers, 3 more grant writers, 10
Grant
grant writers.
applications are really.
Yeah, and you know, we have Senator Reed as a senior senator in Congress. You know, if we can't get him to get some money sent to us, why is he there? So I'd hold them all accountable. I never vote for whoever's in office, ever. I always vote for the person who's not there, because when they're afraid of losing their job, you're never going to believe what they do. They start doing their job. So what I would do is I'd show up to every city council meeting between now and November. I'd show up to every meeting that they have between now and November. I would invite them to come to all of your meetings and hear what you have to say. And at the end of every meeting, it doesn't matter how much you like them, tell them you're not voting for them. That is my answer. That is number one where it starts. Even if you want to vote for them, tell them you're not going to. They're going to start doing their job. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you were talking about going to the meetings, and Beth has been dragging me for what, 6 years now?
Got to get them ready for when I become council person. Right?
They don't let you talk.
No, they don't.
I mean, you talk about pompousness, and this is the school also. And let's not forget the school is over 60% of our budget, folks. We already talked about the school.
Yep.
The school will give you the honor of, I think, 2 minutes,
2 minutes.
maybe 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay. The city council gives you the privilege of 5 minutes if there's no more than 6 of you that want to speak on the subject.
Mhm.
And the really cute thing about it is if you bring up any by statute or whatever, they may not respond to you. So you tell them about a problem and they cannot address it. But if you don't tell them, then they can address the problem. Now, you can talk about the absolute arrogance of what I just said. Please think about that for a minute.
Yep.
So if you do, and I beg all of us to go to those meetings, at the very end of what you say, please say, and I expect you guys to address my issues and not ignore them. The 2018 issue that Beth brought up, first meeting she attended, has still not been addressed.
So I thank you for sharing that. I just want to be respectful of the fact that we've gone over time. And we also have the police officers here that haven't had a chance to speak to us at all.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a final question or comment, or do you want to have a closing statement?
I'd love to have a close to you. Please go first.
I just want to say that when I become council person, I will do everything in my power to make sure that people are accountable, get an organizational chart. I want to know who is in charge of what. There are some departments that are in charge of all these boards, and it's like, we have to have an organizational chart. We have to have job descriptions of what everybody does. Otherwise, we're just going to keep floundering. We got to cut back on our spending. And I am not going to be a yes person voting. You know, if you don't justify what you're asking for, I mean, you should see me sometimes when I'm in those meetings, and there's the department head is up there and he's asking for $90,000 more because he didn't do the original bid correctly. And that was 9 months prior. the city council had 9 months to prepare their questions, you know, to ask why do you need more money? Why do you need another $90,000 in addition to the $250,000 you already have? He can't answer you, and they vote yes. That's just not going to happen. If you cannot answer the questions, it's not going to happen. I know the word no. And we need to clean house in there. If we don't clean house, we're just going to keep floundering. And I look forward to going and getting these plans and these funds and that beautiful, you know, I would love to do, it's called Main Street. I would love to see that come into play here. And thank you.
I would like to see, so I watch a lot of the council meetings. I don't get to go on City Hall, but I watch them afterwards. And I would like to see you running for Ward 6 when you become council member, really take care of Ward 6. I don't hear any specific wards mentioned. It's all the greater city of Warwick, and that's all the council members worry about is greater city of Warwick. I would like to see a lot more concern paid in each of the different wards by their representatives.
And you know, I've been coming to your meetings for a year now, for over a year, because I care. You know, I care what happens here. I love Oakland Beach. I love Rushneck Cove, which is, you know, where I live.
Not just for our ward, but yeah, more.
It means a lot. Yep.
Patrick, your closing statement?
Oh, thanks. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And thank you for inviting me to the barbecue. It was
Wasn't it
awesome.
good?
Yes. So I'm applying for a job right now. And the government should be held. They work for you. You know, I would work for you. You wouldn't just see me down here for a photo op. It's not going to happen. I mean, I'd love to take photos with everybody, but there's work to be done, you know, and I'm not going to be the Facebook mayor, you know, I'm just not going to be the person going online all the time talking about how wonderful everything is, when the fact is there's some really, really great things going on in Warwick, but people are losing their homes. These new schools got passed. The mayor said people are going to lose their homes. I was there. I didn't get to take the medicine I was supposed to take so I could afford the medicine for my wife. Okay. I was losing my house and working 3 jobs. I was having a car repossessed. My whole life was falling apart because somebody got sick, and it could happen to anybody. I've lived it. I've been there. I never applied for bankruptcy. My accountant said, apply for bankruptcy. My financial advisor said, apply for bankruptcy. Everybody told me, apply for bankruptcy. I said, I was in the military. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get this done. I have a mission to take care of my family. We have a roof over our head. It's not the prettiest yard. It's not. Okay. I make everyone else's yard in my neighborhood look better. That's what I bring to our street. That's what I bring to our street. But that's a fact. You know, I don't want people to have to tell their kids, leave Rhode Island, go somewhere else. I don't want people to have to sell their house to move somewhere else. You lived here your whole lives. You want to see your grandkids. My parents moved out when my kids were 8 years old. I didn't have them here to help us. That was not good. And we're one small disaster away from it happening to anybody in here. And unless you have a person who's willing to say, this is what's really going on with the finances, we don't have time to do a 5-year forecast before the election. That's just political. It's not. It's a fact. There's a problem. There's not enough money, or there is money, it's not going to the right things. I'll open all the accounts up, and everyone should be able to review them constantly. And it starts at the top. And if I don't do my job, tell me you're going to fire me. That's really it. you know? And give credit where credit's due. We have good employees. You know, thank your person who's picking up your trash every week, you know, who actually reports that the lid on your trash can's broken and then you show up with another one, you know?
We tried, and they said you could pay $300 to get a new one.
That,
After the city broke our barrel.
yeah. The guy that
They
lives,
throw mine down the street.
the,
Oh, so
I
we have to
the
start
guy that
cleaning.
lives across the street from me in Ward 1, he's getting a new one dropped off this week at no cost.
They have to replace it, yeah.
So I do have one question from the chat.
Oh.
Folks, listen up, we have to start wrapping up. I have a
Thank
question
you.
from the chat. Does anybody know the age for qualifying for the senior discount?
I believe it's 62.
60.
I think it's 62. If it's not, it's definitely 65.
Okay.
And
All right.
the last thing I'll say, you help us, we'll help you. You know, it's a team. You can't do it alone. You have to do it. And that's why I come to the meetings here. You know, it's, you know, you guys are close to my heart now. You know, I care.
I appreciate all the research. I can tell you all did a lot of research and
Thank
you
you.
put a lot of effort in
Thank you.
there. So
And
Thank you.
Beth, I promise I'll hold you accountable.
And
I
I'll
want
hold you
to hold me
accountable.
We can't be patting each other on the back.
That's exactly, oh, I
Thank
do.
you.
Because as she said, she can't do it alone, the mayor can't do it alone. It's gotta be community together.
I have a volunteer sign up if anybody wants to put a sign in their yard,
Let Beth know your
a
concern.
coffee chat.
Let her know if you would put a sign in your yard. There's a sign up sheet.
Do you have
Please.
a challenge?
yeah, he's gonna be
No, he'll be here next month.
next month. So there's 2 running.
All right, well, thank you, Patrick Maloney and Beth Italiane. Great job, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want us to move?
No, I
Oh,
can say it. So we'll have our community police report, Officer James Wyman.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Thank you for your patience.